Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
What you'll hear are adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And Paranormal Expeditions.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. One more thing. You just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
Today's podcast is being brought to you by The Head Scratcher. Life on Earth is a head scratcher to anyone who's paying attention. Today, even our FFM story is a real puzzler, and not in a good way. Listen carefully, but in the end, it really won't matter.
Martha, I have something to ask you.
Darling, it's been such a lovely afternoon here on the mountain.
Martha, I want a divorce.
Divorce?
Yes, there is someone else. I need my freedom.
No, I won't give it to you.
I thought that would be your answer, my dear.
And why did you ask me?
Because, Martha, I did not want to kill you.
Howard?
Yes, Martha. I've got to be rid of you. That's why I brought you to the mountain. There is a precipice over there. It is a long fall, my dear.
We might as well begin with a description of the events leading up to your wife's falling over the precipice.
As you wish, Sergeant. It was such a lovely afternoon that Martha, my wife, and I decided to come up here to the mountain. We brought some lunch with us and planned to make a day of it.
About what time was that, sir?
It was about 3 o'clock.
I see. Would you go on, please?
About 4 o'clock, it began to thunder, and very shortly thereafter, lightning and rain started.
Did you find shelter?
Yes, we were rather fortunate to find a cave about 100 yards from here on the west side of the mountain.
What time did it stop raining?
About an hour later, Sergeant.
What did you do then?
This is quite a lot of questioning, Sergeant. Is it all necessary?
Yes, I'm afraid it is. I hope you don't object. We're almost through.
No, not if it is necessary. Well, to continue. We left the cave and continued to the crest of the mountain. As we got to the top, my wife called my attention to a rainbow, which had suddenly appeared to the west behind the sun.
And that was about 5 o'clock.
Yes. Well, when Martha saw the rainbow, she suggested, as a sort of joke, that we try to follow to the end of the rainbow. You know the pot of gold at the rainbow's end?
Yes, of course. What happened after she suggested it?
I laughed and tried to dissuade Martha from the idea, but she began running down the incline and waving for me to follow her.
Did you?
No, I shouted for her to turn back, but she was running downhill too quickly to stop. Suddenly, she slipped on some loose rock and fell down. She turned over and rolled right off the precipice. It was horrible.
There was no way you could have helped her?
Of course not. Are you insinuating...
No, my mountain climbing friend. I'm merely saying that I don't believe your story. It's a lie.
How does the state policeman know that Howard lied in the story of how his wife met her death? In just a moment, we'll know, but first...
Okay, I'm pretty sure that guy was Dracula, which makes me wonder why he killed his wife by throwing her over a cliff. I mean, he could have had a nice afternoon snack.
Perhaps he wanted to see if she could fly.
Perhaps. Also, we know he killed her, but I can't see what tripped him up.
Nor do I, but I am sure that it has something to do with science.
What makes you say that?
Elements, my dear Ronald, and the refraction index.
That doesn't sound cryptic at all.
And now, back to our story.
Howard, your story contained one rather obvious flaw which condemns it as a lie. You told me just a few minutes ago that after the storm cleared, you and your wife discovered a rainbow to the west, behind the sun, which, my friend, is an impossibility. A rainbow is always formed opposite the sun by the reflection of its rays.
Well, that guy was a real piece of work.
I quite agree, and in addition, this solution has no merit.
How so? After all, light from the sun is scattered by water droplets through a process called refraction. Refraction occurs when the light from the sun changes direction when passing through a medium denser than air, such as a raindrop. So it stands to reason that the direction of the sun has direct bearing on where the rainbow was formed.
Of course. But did you hear that guy's freaky voice?
I know, it's creepy if you ask me.
Most certainly.
What's that you say?
Welcome to the podcast. On the program today, we have a bit of an experiment.
Is that legal?
Yep, in all 50 states and parts of Canada. What we're going to do today is play some short stories sent in by you guys that I've been holding on to.
Well, I don't know. Does it have a theme?
It does. I'm calling it the Head Scratcher segment.
There must be more.
There is. We have a story from the Inner Sanctum titled The Black Seagull that should be quite chilling.
That sounds amazing.
Hence the name, Ron's Amazing Stories.
That's true. That is true.
We have an email that I want to read this week. I love hearing from you guys, and I especially enjoy it when it's something that I can share. This one comes from Patty Barber, who writes to us from New York. Now, I've heard that that's a pretty big city. Hello from New York. Ron, I just love the podcast. Even though the pandemic is winding down, I'm still stuck at home. I have a feeling that my company may never bring us back. That means that on Thursday nights, it's just you and me. I love the listener stories the best. They are so creative, and sometimes they make me laugh, and others, I wish I hadn't heard them alone. I do want to know this. I've heard you talk about Reddit. I troll those boards to read a lot of fan fiction, ghost stories, and even some original fiction. Do you use Reddit to get stories? Or do all the stories get submitted? Also, how much editing do you have to do on the stories you use? Thank you for all your hard work, Patty. Well, those are some good questions. First, let me say I do read the Reddit boards. I follow all kinds of topics ranging from Destiny 2 chatter, that's a video game that I like to play, to ghost stories, to Bigfoot encounters, to UFO sightings, to more serious topics like editing techniques and audiophile stuff. All in all, Reddit is a great place to learn all kinds of cool things. I do take stories from there from time to time, and I've even posted asking for stories for the show. It's amazing how many people are out there ready to share their knowledge and their experiences. Most of the stories you hear on the show are submitted directly to the website via the story submission page, contact page, or a lot of people just send me an email. As for how much editing I have to do on the stories, well, that depends on the prowess of the writer. Sometimes there's nothing to do except read the thing. Other times, a total rewrite is in order, which can become quite challenging at times. The trick is to tell their story without losing the author's original feel and intent. On a total rewrite, I always send a copy to the storyteller asking them for their approval. Now, I think that answers all your questions, Patty. If not, please let me know if you want to know more. One more bit of business before we get things started today. Many of you have been asking if there are swag items for the show. The quick answer is not at this time. However, I am working on making t-shirts and mugs available in the very near future. Years ago, we had a coffee cup available, and quite frankly, it didn't do well. So I hope this time around, things will go better. Now let's get on with the show. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, computer, Kindle. Whatever you have, you can listen to Audible on it. So what am I listening to? Strange Things in the Woods, a collection of terrifying stories by Steve Stockton and narrated by Joe Hempel. They say that something strange lurks just beyond the woodline. This audiobook would agree. The woods and forests can be a true dichotomy of experiences. For many, they offer a peaceful connection to nature, but for some, they have been a source of terror. In the shadows of towering trees and hidden in the brush, these unlikely few have encountered creatures or monsters that most think only inhabit our nightmares. However, not all of the stories that Stockton presents are scary. They fall more into the category of the head scratcher. Here are 2 examples from the book.
The Crying Kittens. When I was a child, we had an old cat that hung around in the barn on our property. One spring, she had a litter of kittens up in the hayloft, 7 kittens in all. The old cat wasn't a very good mother and had abandoned the kittens, and unfortunately, they were already dead by the time my brother and sister and I found them. We felt sorry for the kittens and decided to have a funeral for them down by the creek bank. We purloined one of Mother's old hat boxes from the attic, filled it with straw, and placed all the tiny, lifeless bodies inside. After arriving at the creek with our makeshift coffin, we said a few words, and my older brother dug a hole with a shovel in the soft ground. Sometime later, perhaps a week or more, my sister had gone to place some fresh-picked wildflowers on the tiny grave. Imagine her surprise when she heard the sound of kittens meowing. Thinking we had made a mistake and had buried the poor kittens alive, she ran back to the house and got my brother and me. My brother grabbed the shovel out of the barn and we flew down to the creek bank as fast as our feet would carry us. When we arrived, we could hear the faint sound of kittens too. My brother soon uncovered the box and we quickly pulled it out of the ground and ripped the lid off the hat box. Much to our shock, we were greeted with the sight and smell of 7 very much deceased kittens. My sister took a stick and, holding her nose with one hand, gently prodded each tiny kitten. It was obvious they were all very dead. Mystified, we replaced the box into the grave and covered it back up. From then on, for many years, we all continued to hear the muffled sounds of tiny kittens near the grave. We could only assume that what we were hearing was the ghosts of these poor, tiny creatures. The Giant Snake. This happened when I was a much younger man, I'd say 50 or more years ago. It was in the early spring and I was out squirrel hunting in the woods with my .22 rifle. I hadn't gotten many squirrels that day and observed that there wasn't hardly anything stirring in the woods, not even birds. I thought that maybe something had all the woodland creatures spooked, maybe a bobcat, as they were common in that part of the country at the time. I shouldered my rifle and decided to make my way back to the house, figuring I'd just have to be content with the 2 or 3 squirrels I had bagged earlier. At one point, I arrived at the creek and started following it back toward the house, figuring I still had a mile or more to go until I reached a place where it was shallow enough to ford. I came upon a small clearing when I spied what I thought was a log lying across the creek. Surprised at this good fortune, I knew if I could cross the creek here, it would save me a lot of walking. I was just about to step on the log to see if it would hold my weight when the log moved. What I thought was a log turned out to be the biggest snake I've ever seen. Stunned, I watched as the snake's tail came into view as it slithered across the creek. Now, this was in East Tennessee. We don't have snakes as big as telephone poles. I wish I could have gotten a look at the snake's head, but by the time I came to my senses, I realized I'd better get out of there. No wonder the creatures of the forest were spooked. As big as the snake looked, I was afraid it would try to eat me.
Steve Stockton is a veteran outdoorsman and paranormal researcher. He has put together a vast collection of over 80 terrifying, odd, and strange encounters. These chilling tales may leave you questioning whether you ever want to journey into the woods again. Having said that, you can have your very own copy of Strange Things in the Woods today. Here is what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This includes free access to the Audible Plus catalog, which is updated monthly with new titles. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can get Strange Things in the Woods today. Thank you, Audible. And now it's time for your stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
As I mentioned earlier, we get a lot of submissions to the show. A lot of these are things that I can't really use or we would lose our clean rating. Another problem I have is that these stories are sometimes too short, and well, that brings us to today. What we'll hear is a series of these short submissions tied together under the general theme of the head scratcher. But just what is a head scratcher? Well, these are stories that make you say, huh? In our day-to-day lives, we are constantly bombarded by these types of things, and I think sometimes they don't even register as out of the ordinary. However, sometimes they catch us off guard and we take full note of their impact. Like this story from Evan Wallace. He is a farmer in Kentucky. Hey Ron, I was taken by the lightning story you had on the show. A couple weeks ago, I was out tilling the field in the north side of my property. I knew that a storm was brewing, and I wanted to get it done before it hit. I didn't make it. A bolt of lightning hit my tractor full on. There was a bit of an explosion, followed by some smoke and other unfortunate stuff. I, however, was not injured or even felt anything, which I think is pretty amazing. Evan Wallace. Well, Evan, I should say that is amazing. This next one comes from Mike Spencer, who lives in Seattle. Mike has been a consistent contributor to the show over the years. I have no idea of which story he's referring to, but I can say that this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Hey Ron, I loved the stories this week. The one on Bigfoot sent chills. You see, when I was around 4 years old, I was camping somewhere in Washington with my family. While I don't remember it, my dad and mom talk about it all the time. They saw Bigfoot walk right through our campsite. When I heard you telling that story, well, let's just say I now remember it, and I can see the big guy walking throughout the camp. Thank you for reviving this memory, Mike. Well, Mike, you're welcome. I guess. I hope I didn't create a whole new set of problems for you. This short comes from Melinda Walker of San Antonio, Texas. I think I know which story she's talking about, but I can't be 100% certain. Ron, all I can say is wow. That was a great show. The orb story hit me so very hard. Why? Because I had a similar experience. I was 12 years old. I woke up from a dream, I think, and was a bit hazy. I remember thinking that I was not alone. I opened my eyes and looked around the room. There was an orange orb about 6 inches in diameter. It floated there for quite a while and then slowly faded away. You are the first person I've ever told this to. Melinda. Well, I think that this story may have been triggered by one that we had in episode number 400 of the podcast. Jim Harold co-hosted that show with me, and if I'm right, he was also quite taken with that story. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Melinda. Okay, this one comes from Merlin802. Ron, I too have a head scratcher for you. So I was playing a game on my PC while my parents were out at a store. They were completely gone and no one was home other than my dog, and he was right next to me the whole time. It was only 2 hours or so into the game when there was a knock on my bedroom door. I had headphones on and thought my parents were back. My dog got up and wagged his tail at the door, jumping up and down like he normally does. So I opened the door, but nobody was there. I went into the living room and found that the house was completely empty, and so was my head, because I was dumbfounded. Who was at my door? Even my dog could tell somebody was there. Merlin802. Well, Merlin, that is a head scratcher for sure, and I'm sorry, but I don't have any answers for you. Thank you for sharing your story. Our last one comes from StopBrian202, who said that he was taken aback by a shadow story we had. We've had so many of those over the years that I have no idea which one he means. Ron, my room is in the basement, and to get to my room you have to walk through an arch. A couple of months after we moved in, I saw a head peeking through the arch into my bedroom. I saw a mouth and red eyes. It was blacker than the background of my room. I saw it a couple more times like that. It's at least half a foot taller than me, and I'm 6 foot. It always disappears whenever I blink. Now I know that this is not much of a story, but your story gave me the chills, so I just had to tell you about it. I think the next time I see it, I will try and talk to it. I'll let you know what happens. Brian. Well, Brian, please do. That sounds like an incredible experiment just waiting to happen, and I will look forward to it. That's all the short stories I have for now. Please keep commenting on them and give us your thoughts. If I get enough of them, we'll do this again. If you have a story that you want to share or want to comment on one, head to the main website at ronsamazingstories.com and click on the story submission banner. Leave your story, give it a title, and tell me where you're from. I'll read it if I can.
I'm Gladdy, the dachshund, the face of Gladdy's Goodies. Are you worried about your pet's health? My parents were too, especially since I developed pancreatitis. They couldn't find any treats I could eat, so they made some. Our natural treats are healthy for all dogs, with and without health issues. We have lots of delicious flavors like chicken, turkey, salmon, sweet potato, beef, and more. With our homemade treats, you won't worry about the contents because they have no chemicals, fillers, or bad ingredients. Go to GladysGoodies.com now to get your fur friend a bag. And pick them up some swag while you're there. You'll be glad you did. Remember, we have the treats and swag to make their tails wag. Again, that's GladysGoodies.com. Again, that's GladysGoodies.com.
Our featured story for this time comes from the infamous OTR series, Inner Sanctum. This is one of those radio shows that didn't use transcribing. That is, it was performed live. Of course, it was then recorded and reissued for replay on other stations throughout the country. Why is that different? Well, by doing that, you're actually getting a slice of time as they experienced it back then. For example, on this program it opens with a plea for women to sign up to work in war plants during World War II. Also, you get a very different feel as you listen. I like to think of these shows as, well, mini time machines. Also on this program we get a special treat. The lead actor is Peter Lorre. He was a Hungarian-American actor who began his stage career in Vienna before moving to Germany. Being of Jewish descent, Lorre left Germany when Adolf Hitler came to power. Eventually settling in Hollywood, he later became a featured player in many crime and mystery films, usually playing a pretty bad guy. From 1941 to 1946, he mainly worked for Warner Brothers. His first film at Warner was the classic The Maltese Falcon. How about that? The story we will hear today is titled The Black Seagull and is every bit as creepy as it sounds. Lorre gives a better-than-average performance as a man who deals with the grief of losing his wife and then his mind. It first aired on Inner Sanctum on April 7th, 1943.
Inner Sanctum Mysteries, starring Peter Lorre, brought to you by Carter's Little Liver Pills. Before we open the squeaking door on Inner Sanctum this evening, here's a message the government would like to have passed on to you. Women are urgently needed now in war plants and essential industries. There are all kinds of war jobs which don't involve machinery or tools, such as driving a bus or taxi, working in a laundry, restaurant, school, or day nursery. And in filling these jobs, women are relieving men for heavier work. Ladies, if you live in an area where there's a shortage of war workers, go to the office of the United States Employment Service nearest your home at once. The address is in your local telephone book. But remember, do not move to a crowded war center in search of a job. It will only add to the housing and living problem already existing there. Your first and only necessary step to volunteer your services in a war job is to visit your local United States Employment Service office. Get yourself a war job and hasten the day of victory. And now we open the squeaking door.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum. This is Raymond, your host. I'm glad you came tonight because we have a very special guest of horror with us. I'd like you to meet the late Johnny Gravestone, the most celebrated member of the Inner Sanctum Ghost Society. He is the best haunter of them all. Johnny is the tall figure in the white sheet wearing the blue ribbon. He's haunted everything, from a palace to a telephone booth. And if you're very nice to him, he'll be glad to consider giving your house to once over. Who knows? He may even haunt you.
Tonight's Inner Sanctum story, The Black Seagull, is an original radio drama by Sigmund Miller and stars Peter Lorre in the role of Richard Blake. It's produced under the direction of Hyman Brown. Inner Sanctum Mysteries are brought to you by Carter's Little Liver Pills. When you feel dull, headachy, sluggish, take Carter's two-way treatment to, first, start your liver bile flowing quickly. Second, get comfortable relief from irregularity.
Well, we're about to begin our story. Oh, I forgot to warn you about the tremblins. They're those pesky, invisible cousins of the gremlins. They sidle up to you, give you quick little shoves, and create the false impression that you're trembling. If you're being troubled by a tremblin, just grab him by his invisible little horns and stick him into the nearest pincushion. Dusk is settling fast along the Carolina coast. A few miles out at sea, a motorboat rides through the choppy waters. Dr. Griffin and Richard Blake are frantically scanning the horizon, looking for Richard's wife, Barbara, who's lost in sailboat.
It's getting dark, Richard.
We've got to find her before nightfall.
Perhaps she's gotten back home by now. We've been gone for over an hour.
The mast was loose in the sailboat. It would never hold out in that wind. Barbara is in a disabled boat.
We haven't much gasoline left.
I'm not going back until we find her.
The only thing we can do is call the Coast Guard.
Did you hear that, Dr. Griffin?
Yes. Seagulls.
Sounded like a human cry.
Oh, no, it's only the gulls, Richard.
Listen.
It's the same sound.
No. This is no bird cry. That was Barbara.
That was the cry of a seagull. See? He's right above us. A Black Seagull.
Black gull. Completely black. It's an ominous sign. Something has happened to Barbara.
Oh, come now. I hope you don't believe in that superstitious nonsense.
Look. Over there. Do you see it?
It looks like a boat.
It's Barbara. The mast. The mast is down.
We'd better get over there fast. Here. Help me put her on the couch.
Dr. Griffin, please, you've got to do something.
I'll do everything I can. Pretty bad. Concussion.
The mast. It must have come loose and struck her. Please, Dr. Griffin, you've got to bring her back.
She may come to any second. Or she may never come out of it.
No. It isn't true.
I wish it weren't. Her skull is crushed. The injury is a fatal one.
No. It's only a surface wound. Perhaps an operation. We can get her to a hospital. Look, she's coming too.
Please, Richard. There isn't a chance.
Richard.
Yes, darling.
Oh, it wasn't my fault. The mast, it broke in the wind.
Don't talk, my darling.
I'm so sorry, Richard. Don't be unhappy.
You're going to be all right. Dr. Griffin says you're going to recover.
No.
You've got to hold on, darling. We'll get you to a hospital.
You've been so good to me, darling. We've been very happy together.
You can't leave me, Barbara. I won't live without you.
Oh, you mustn't say that.
If you die, Barbara, I don't want to live.
I'll always be near you. I'll come back if it's possible.
You must come back. You must. If you don't, I'll come to you.
No, I'll return, Richard. I'll return. Richard, Oh.
He's gone. The men are ready to lower the coffin, Richard.
You wish to pay your final respect?
Final respect. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. Do you understand? The beginning. Barbara isn't gone. She'll come back. She said so.
No, Richard. No one comes back from the grave. It's dangerous to believe that. Dangerous for your sanity.
She'll come back. She didn't fly.
All right, men. Lower the body.
Did you hear that?
Yes. The seagulls again.
That wasn't a seagull. I told you. That was Barbara's voice.
Please, Richard. It's only a gull.
No. It's her. She's calling to me. She promised to return. You see? Barbara didn't fail.
You must stop this, Richard. You'll wind up in an asylum.
You're a fool, Dr. Griffin.
Lower the coffin,
That was
then.
her voice. No. Don't lower it. That sound came from the coffin. She might even be alive.
She's dead, Richard.
I want that coffin opened.
We can't do that, Richard. There's no way of opening it now.
We'll pry it open. Don't try to stop me, Dr. Griffin.
All right. We'll open it. Here, one of you men. Break the seals at the top of the coffin.
For heaven's sakes, hurry.
It will only be worse for you, Richard, if you look at poor Barbara again.
Will you tell the man to hurry?
The coffin's opened, Richard. Now you can see for yourself.
Look at her face.
Her face?
You wouldn't believe me. Look at her mouth. As if she had just called my name.
Who is there?
Dr. Griffin.
Come in. Door is open.
Oh. You took me by surprise, Richard. I didn't expect you to be sitting so close to the door.
I'm sorry I startled you, Dr. Griffin.
I just thought I'd drop in before I went to bed. Are you waiting for someone?
Yes, I am.
Oh, what are you sitting in the dark for? Where's the light switch?
I don't want any light. I prefer sitting in the dark.
Richard, you're becoming very morbid. Don't you think you ought to get to bed? It's nearly midnight.
Midnight? Yes. That's the time she'll come back.
You really believe Barbara will come back?
Yes. I'm sure she will.
Well, we'll see.
She'll come.
If she does, it will only be on your mind.
Please be quiet.
Well?
Barbara, you've come. She's here. I know she's here. Oh, darling, you've kept your promise.
Richard, stop it. Where's the light switch?
Put that light out.
It was nothing. The wind opened the door. It was just a coincidence that happened at the stroke of midnight. I didn't close the door properly when I came in.
She was here. I felt her cheek on mine.
You imagined it.
Imagined it. Look, Dr. Griffin. Look at my cheek. My cheek. A teardrop fell on my cheek.
It's not a teardrop, it's the rain. The wind blew some rain in through the open door.
It wasn't the rain. Barbara was here. If you hadn't put on the lights, I would have seen her. Barbara, some people do come back from the grave. I heard about such cases.
Richard.
Barbara, it's you.
Yes,
It's
darling.
you.
It's me. I promise never to leave you.
I was about to give up. I was beginning to lose hope. How good it is to see you again.
Yes, darling. It's very good. I've been trying to come back.
And it was you who opened the door at midnight.
Yes, Richard.
And it was your tears that fell on my cheek. Couldn't the rain have Dr. Griffin said?
Yes, Richard.
But I couldn't see you then. I just felt your cheek against mine.
It was very hard to return at all.
What is that noise?
I don't hear anything, Richard.
That sound disturbs me. Makes me uneasy.
You're asleep. Fast asleep. Perhaps the sound will fade away. Look at me, Richard.
I can see you much more clearly.
And the sound?
It's fading on.
Perhaps we'll never be separated again.
So good to be with you again. Let me hold your hand.
Wait.
Why do you say that?
Not yet time.
What do you mean?
You haven't crossed over yet. Can you still hear the banging?
Oh, just a little. Oh, but I don't go away.
I can't help it. Someone's dragging you away.
Don't catch him. I don't want to go back.
I'll try to come back again, Richard.
I don't want to go back. I want to stay with you.
Goodbye, Richard.
Richard. Richard. Wake up. Wake up.
Good thing I heard the shutters banging. I came in to see what was making all this noise.
You shouldn't have wakened me.
This box of pills. You took an overdose of these sleeping tablets. If I hadn't awakened you, you would have slept on until eternity.
Barbara came for me. She was just about to take my hand.
Perhaps if she had, you'd never have gotten up.
I didn't want to get up. I wanted to be with Barbara forever.
Well, Dr. Griffin should be awarded the Order of the Inner Sanctum for saving the life of Richard Blake. If it weren't for the good man, our story would have come to an end in the middle of the program. And that would have been very inconvenient for all of us. As a reward, perhaps we'll just wound Dr. Griffin a little bit instead of polishing him off. But until we make up our minds, here's a gentleman with an important message for you.
To keep you feeling on top of the world, medical knowledge proves that nature should produce about 2 pints of liver bile, the vital digestive juice your liver makes, each day. Otherwise, your food may not digest properly and leave you feeling dull, headachy, sluggish. Scientific facts show it takes a 2-way treatment to get the vital digestive juice flowing quickly and to relieve sluggishness without disturbing digestion. Therefore, do as thousands now do. Take Carter's Little Liver Pills. First, because Carters start the vital digestive juice flowing, usually within 30 minutes. Second, because Carters gently help you to that glorious feeling that goes with regularity. Remember, many ordinary simple laxatives don't, but Carter's Little Liver Pills do give this 2-way treatment. So take genuine Carter's Little Liver Pills as directed tonight. Tomorrow, see if you don't wake up feeling glad to be alive. Get Carter's at any drugstore. 25 cents.
Now we're ready to continue with our strange story. I hope you've all made yourselves comfortable. If it's too warm for you, we'll be glad to chill you a bit. Or if it's too cold, we'll be glad to make it hot for you. As a matter of fact, from now on, you'll get it both hot and cold. The following evening.
Barbara, you must come back to me. Barbara, can you hear me? Perhaps she can't get in. She said it was hard for her to come back. I'll open the door. Barbara! For a moment, there was a shadowy figure at the door. I did see something. She's here. Oh, it's you, Kitty. Barbara's pet. Haven't seen you since Barbara died. Come here, Kitty. Whom are you looking at? Barbara!
Richard.
Where are you?
Right here.
Your voice is so faint.
Come closer. Come closer.
I don't know where you are.
The closet where I used to keep my clothes.
Darling, I still can't see you.
This blue taffeta dress. My favorite. I used to love the rustling sound it made when I walked.
It's still clinking. Like it always did.
Richard.
Where are you? Please don't go away.
Right here. My vanity table.
For heaven's sake, Barbara, let me see you again.
My perfumes. They're all here.
Nothing has been touched, darling.
Here's my favorite. Wild heather. I'll never wear it again.
Barbara, please don't go. Where are you?
I'm everywhere in this room. Everywhere.
Why can't I see you?
Perhaps you will. We must both try. We must both try very hard.
I'll try, Barbara.
Goodbye, my darling.
No, not yet. Just another moment.
Goodbye, Richard.
Barbara. Barbara. She's gone. She's gone. Only you and I know she was here. Who is there? Oh, it's you, Dr. Griffin.
I came back to see how you were.
I don't need any help.
I heard you shouting Barbara's name.
You were mistaken, Dr. Griffin.
Barbara's dress. It's lying over the chair. Did you take it out of the closet?
No, Dr. Griffin.
The perfume's in the air. Yes. There's a bottle of perfume overturned on the vanity table. Wild heather. That was Barbara's favorite, wasn't it?
Yes, Dr. Griffin.
You think Barbara was here? Don't you, Richard?
Huh? She was here. I spoke to her. And she'll come again. She said she would. And maybe the next time I'll be able to see Barbara. See her as she was when she was alive.
I know you don't want visitors, Richard, but you shouldn't be alone. I brought Miss Driscoll with me to look after you.
How do you do, Mr. Blake?
Barbara will be here soon.
You haven't been eating. You've lost a lot of weight. Richard.
Yes, Dr. Griffin?
You've got to listen to me.
There's nothing you can tell me.
You won't last at this rate. Look at you. Pale and lifeless. You're still alive, but you're living among the dead. Well, you've got to stop this. You don't, you'll wind up in an asylum.
An asylum? You still don't believe Barbara had come back?
No, Richard. She hasn't come back.
You saw for yourself the other night? Her dress? Her perfumes? She came back. I spoke to her.
You took the dress out of the closet yourself, and it was you who overturned the bottle of perfume.
You are lying, Dr. Griffin. It wasn't me. You're trying to come between us. I won't let you. I won't Barbara!
Richard, I've come back.
Darling, I can see you.
Get me my bag in the hall, Miss Driscoll. Hurry.
I can see you very clearly now.
Do I look any different?
No, you're even lovelier than ever.
Richard.
We've got to meet each other halfway.
Richard.
Yes, darling. I've been trying. I tried very hard.
I've brought some friends. They all want to meet you.
Friends?
Yes. This is Fred Rankin. You remember him?
Oh, Fred.
How do you do, Richard? I'm Fred Rankin.
But you're dead.
Yes. I've been dead for 6 years.
And this is Mr. Fielding. Remember him? He was your neighbor once, killed by an automobile.
Yes. I've been dead for a long time. Ever since you were a young boy, Richard.
And this is Mary Schofield, the girl you went to school with.
Barbara! Barbara, watch out! The mast! It's falling! It's falling!
Richard, help me! Help me! Help me!
It's Barbara! It's Barbara! She's out there in a boat. The mast is gone. I've got to save her before it's too late.
You're not going anywhere. There's no one calling you. Nurse, help me get him back into bed.
Let me go! Let me go!
You're staying here with
Let
me.
me go!
Come back!
Come back, Bridget!
Well, he couldn't have swum very far in a short time, Dr. Griffin.
I caught sight of him just a moment ago.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, I see him.
Yes, but he's going down. He's going down. Merciful heaven. Did you see?
Yes, he's gone down.
But he was holding someone. I could see her long black hair.
It's no use. We'll never... You say he was holding someone?
Yes. It looked like a woman. She had long black hair.
It must have been seaweed. You see things in this twilight that don't exist. Imagination is like fire. A good servant, but a bad master. I guess we had better get back.
Well, Dr. Griffin lost the good fight. He was gull crazy. Well, that was no gull. That was Richard's wife. Anyway, the Inner Sanctum Ghost Society is mad at Dr. Griffin because he's interfering with the drive for new members. Say, by the way, if you should hear the wild cry of birds in your next dream, don't be alarmed. It's just that spring is on its way. Be sure to read this month's Inner Sanctum mystery novel, The Smell of Money, by Matthew Head, on sale at all bookshops.
It's enough to make you shudder when you see what a boy or a girl can put in his or her stomach. Things you know would lay you low. Yet they bounce out of bed in the morning just a raring to go. That's youth for you. Yet thousands of people who should feel terrible tomorrow morning, considering the way they've insulted their digestive systems this weekend, may feel like a million tomorrow morning. Because tonight, they're going to act on a piece of advice from the Book of Medical Knowledge. For medical knowledge proves that nature should produce about 2 pints of the vital digestive juice your liver makes each day. Otherwise, your food may not digest properly and leave you feeling dull, headachy, sluggish. Scientific facts show it takes a two-way treatment to get the vital digestive juice flowing quickly and to relieve sluggishness without disturbing digestion. Therefore, do as thousands now do. Take Carter's Little Liver Pills to get this two-way treatment you may need. First, Carter starts the vital digestive juice flowing, usually within 30 minutes. Second, Carter's gently help you to that glorious feeling that goes with regularity. Remember, many ordinary simple laxatives don't, but Carter's Little Liver Pills do give this two-way treatment. So take genuine Carter's Little Liver Pills as directed tonight. Tomorrow, see if you don't wake up feeling glad to be alive. Get Carter's at any drugstore. 25 cents.
Be sure to listen next week, for lovely Judith Evelyn will be back with us again in a sweet little story, just full of beautiful murder. Well, now it's time to close the squeaking door of the Inner Sanctum until next week. So, good night. Pleasant dreams.
Inner Sanctum comes to you from New York. This is the Blue Network.
Well, I will admit the recording on that one wasn't great, but the story was, well, ahead of its time. Dealing with grief is such a difficult thing, and making it entertainment is, well, that much harder. Lorre obviously embraced the role and took it to a whole new level. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. The Inner Sanctum featured stories of mystery, terror, and suspense, and its tongue-in-cheek introductions were in sharp contrast to shows like Suspense and The Whistler. The early 1940s programs opened with Raymond Edward Johnson introducing himself as your host, Raymond, in a mocking, sardonic voice. A spooky, melodramatic organ score, played by Lou White, punctured Raymond's many morbid jokes and playful puns. Raymond's closing was an elongated, pleasant dreams, which became iconic and is still found in broadcasting today. Inner Sanctum surely was a forerunner to everything that was to follow in the genre.
Have you tried Wheaties? They're whole wheat with all of the bran. Won't you try Wheaties? For wheat is the best food of man. They're crispy and crunchy the whole year through. The kiddies never tire of them, and neither will you. So just buy Wheaties, the best breakfast food in the land.
It's hard to believe, but that was episode number 496, and Patty Barber, Evan Wallace, Mike Spencer, Melinda Walker, Merland 802, and Stop Brian 202 made it happen. Amazing. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.